Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you, Gloves Off, and I'm Professor Buitron. I here have a dear friend of mine, Chris Parkerson, and we're touching base on the issues that are going on with America right now and the way the crime is going up and what type of crimes we're getting. A little bit of a background on Chris is that he's a well-versed martial artist in many different styles. He's also was in law enforcement. And besides that, he also was in the executive protection specialty. And how are we doing, my brother? You doing good?
I'm doing great today, and we've got a storm coming through here in the Midwest. I hope all is well with you. We're looking out for tornadoes and nasty floods up here ourselves. My background, I love South Texas. I worked on the border down there in the U.S. Border Patrol, and I also worked down on Padre Island National Seashore as a drug interdiction specialist for the National Park Service. I was the regional investigator for drug interdiction through the Southwest region of the Park Service. I love the culture where you're at, and I do miss visiting your dojo.
Anytime, this is home for you if you wanted it. It's here. It's here for you. Anyway, that's some good history behind you, and that's some great work that you've done, and I thank you for that service. But as we were talking, as many people that we know in common and friends of ours in other areas that also teach martial arts, they've all raised a certain concern of what's going on with the new crimes developing and everything else. How do you see that crime coming in of age?
Well, the crime is coming up very quickly. I think it's gone up a good 30-40% in the cities. I was just trying to keep my dog quiet upstairs there. Each year it's going to get worse and worse over the next few years. And I think we know that that's partly by design, partly by just the influx of the open borders and the recession of actually trying to do any serious law enforcement to stop criminal activity.
What in the sense when you say open borders, does that open us up? And we've seen it. The reason I'm asking this question is because a lot of people don't really know about it. They just kind of understand that things are going on, but they don't understand. They've never been to Central or South America. They've never been to Africa. They've never been to Europe. So they do not realize how the crime works in other continents as well as other countries and other cultures. And we're seeing that here. We saw it with our police officer that got beat up by 4 Venezuelans. They're claiming them to be part of a gang, and there's so on and so forth now that's going on. Now you're seeing the National Guard and in New York subways, and there's a lot of issues with that coming of age. What type of crimes do you see are going to start developing more?
Well, it's interesting because several years back, about a decade ago, I built the bodyguard operations for Sony down in Tijuana and Mexicali and other maquiladores, which are production plants in Mexico. The cartels were everywhere there, and it was very hard not to be noticed by them and be influenced by them. If I had to take a survey of the Mexican executives working at Sony, I would say back then 6 out of 7 pretty much had either been kidnapped, robbed, their houses burglarized, or their kids being threatened by kidnap, sequestro express, they call it, quick kidnaps. All those kind of crimes are coming up this way. You know it because the cartels have made nothing of the border now, and they all live down in the towns down in South Texas and other places along the border. But now with this new stream of immigrants coming up, heck, I just sent you a video on some Chilean former prison types have developed a cartel, a small gang, and they're hitting all the jewelry stores up in Michigan. Well, they killed somebody, and they admit it, and they know they're not going to end up in jail for it.
See, that's the type of crimes that you're going to start seeing. You know, a lot of people that, as you know, they always say Laredo. How's Laredo coming with the immigration? How's Laredo coming with the problem? Laredo, you can say it's the Vena Cava for.
I lost your volume.
Illegal contraband is very much welcomed by individuals and other agencies throughout our government, which we all kind of, people say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, you have these wild theories. It's actually happening. And we saw that happening in issues and how it was affected when we had Fast and Furious came of age. But nonetheless, Laredo's in a very peculiar element in the sense of it's not going to be really, really bugged in the sense of the mass migration that you start seeing 100 miles northwest of us and 60 miles south of us, you know, so on the river. So that's the reason why you don't see that much. And people might just they're bewildered why, but that's the reason why. That's a hypothesis that can be proven if you go into court documents. But
for me, I'm all about the statistics. It's not about feelings or what I want to be or what I don't want to be. If you don't know what the data is, you can't get a feeling or you can't get a sense about what truly is. And you can't do a risk assessment or a mitigation to your own vulnerabilities until you know exactly what you're dealing with. All you have to do is call the hospitals and find out if they're being overloaded. You can call the schools, find out if they're being overloaded. You can call that, and then you can call the police and ask if they're being overloaded. And if they don't want to say they're being overloaded, get the data on how fewer people they have this year than they did last year, and how many crimes they are actually admitting that they can respond to. That is what this surge is about, and it ends up in chaos in the streets.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And the chaos that you see in the streets, what I'm trying to get at is it's going to be a lot different. A lot of these individuals, as you well know it, and a lot of them are coming in. We have some good people coming in, some great immigrants coming in as well that are looking for a betterment in life and a betterment in their way of living. But at the same time, we're getting some very bad elements coming in at the same time. And that you can't really differentiate the others until the crimes are committed. And the lack of inability to protect the border for you to vet them at the beginning is the problem, is the issue. But this is not, how can I say, what's right or wrong. It's the types of crimes that we're going to start seeing and the way they're moving along. And within society, that's what my concern is, and the concern of many other martial artists that are out there teaching, because that's who the people are going to come to you to teach them how to defend themselves. And that's what you have to be in.
In the Border Patrol, I was taught immigration law. That's what we enforced. There are still on the books. It's just nobody in the current Senate or Congress are willing to face it and stand up to it. But those laws are on the books. Crimes of moral turpitude. That means rape. That means murder. That means robbery and everything else. Those people are not supposed to come into this border. And that's what screening is about. If you have a gate around your home, why not have a gate around your country and have selective people come in? Not everybody is bad. But that's really begging the question of, are you screening out the criminals? Now, if you and I are old enough to remember the Murrieta boat lift, okay, Cuba dumped all their prisoners into the United States on that boat lift, and it caused crimes. They made movies about it. Well, there's going to make movies about what's happening now, but it's going to be after the fact. Right now in New York, there are people putting in abandoned buildings that they own, 60, 70, 100 beds, and they charge $300 a bed for these people. Why? Because the government can't provide enough housing for them, and putting them in hotels simply ruined the tourist business and everything else. And big companies are leaving those type of cities. So what do these other people do? They're making $20,000-$30,000 a month on an empty building. Okay, so everyone's playing into this without the bigger understanding of what it's going to do to their country. Half of those people are nice people. Maybe they won't work. Maybe they want to stay here. Maybe they want to go home after a couple of years and be with their families. That's part of the reason why so many men are coming up here. They're not wanting to stay. They're here. Some of them just to work, like the old Bracero program. And then others are here to do nefarious things, and they come up as criminal gangs, and they even admit it right out. And you can see them by their tattoos and the way they walk, who they are.
And you're going to see that. And when you come into that element, the type of attacks is going to be not one-on-one. It's going to be 2-3. It's going to be a predatorial attack. And what I mean by predatorial attack is you're going to be set up into a point where all of a sudden you're dealing with one, and 5 of them all of a sudden jump at you that you did not know were part of that gang. That's a type of fights, altercations that you're going to start seeing here. And you saw it with a police officer, because you saw him go down and all of a sudden 5 of them jumped up, or 4 of them jumped up, or whatever. Several went in there. And that in a way, how can I put it? I don't condone that, but that is how the fights are from the Rio Grande all the way down to Chile. Where you go into a bad neighborhood in any one of those cities, you're going to get what they call the baño here. They're going to jump you, and it's going to be 4-on-1, 5-on-1, 6-on-1. Guess what? Somebody, and one of them's probably going to have something sharp, and he's going to poke you with it. So in the training sense of it, and in the training sense of it, how are you telling people what to do? It's number one, it's awareness. But how would you take it?
I just posted on a group talk on Facebook. The very things you're talking about are part of my threat assessment. And when I gave my type of mitigations about how to be a gray man, if you've got to get home, how to get to your car if you feel like it's a threatening area, how to go through 2 or 3 subcultures within a big city without standing too far out in each of them or becoming a target, and still keeping a tactical standard in your kit that is totally concealed. And I brought up, I want a shotgun. So I have a pistol shotgun, and half of these weekend warriors started laughing that I would first have a revolver because there's many people, and secondly, that it would be a 410. Well, let me tell you, when I go Goomba style from the 1930s with a big jacket that's a motorcycle jacket, by the way, so it's hard to slash and cut. It's already got some Kevlar in it. And then I've got a vest, a small, thin vest underneath. And I have a pistol in that big pocket pointed in at you. My first shot is a quarter second. And when you're shooting somebody, it isn't how nice the gun is, how big of a capacity it is. I got a backup gun. But that first few shots are going to get 3 or 4 people with that 410. And then I can run. Then I can work my way to my bigger gun. But, people think, no, you got to have big capacity. You're not going to wear it every day if you do, because it's too heavy and it's poking in your appendix, when your appendix carry and everything else. No, I carry small guns to get myself to the car. And that's where I got my big gun. And if my car breaks down, I have a bulletproof, beautiful maroon satchel I bought years ago for $500. It's probably $1,000 now. And it has a reinforced strap in it. I carry a carbine in that with 6 extra magazines. And those magazines fit my backup Glock 30 too. So you marry the pistol and the carbine together, and you got more versatility, and you don't have to use so many magazines. Now, are my martial arts good? Yeah. you know. But that's where I'm going. I want a lot of firepower. I also drive, oddly enough, and you'll think I'm crazy, an armored car. I bought it for $30,000. It's a 2005 with 1,600 miles on it, Crown Victoria. Those things will run forever. And yeah, that's part of my getaway.
A lot of people don't have that luxury, and but so I tell them the first thing that you have to do is you have to realize awareness is number one. So if you're the only one and you're going to go be jogging in the middle of the night in the park because somebody told you, your fitness coach told you, and your yoga instructor told you you have to run at middle of the night to get the energy. Well, guess what? You're also going to see bad energy. And that's what people need to understand, that this is in us now. The way you're going to have the ability, it's going to be the fastness, the veracity of these attacks are going to happen. And it's something that we here in Laredo kind of grew up with that. We lived in the border. We saw that type of attacks. I've seen in other countries. I've seen the way they move. And guess what? A lot of these individuals, they don't care about you. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about what they're doing. They're already here for a purpose, and they're going to do that. People, I was told the other day, and says, well, you know what? When you get something like that, you dial 911 on your cell phone. Your cell phone's probably going to be stolen as well. And what happens is it's too late. It's gone. And depending
I agree. We shouldn't completely invest ourselves in our cell phone. We need redundancy. We need a backup. I have walkie-talkies that go nationwide, and they're cheap. You can get them on the internet for $60 a piece. Well, you know what? We're about to have floods, storms, and maybe even another crashing of our communication system in the next 2 days just because of the storms. I always keep that walkie-talkie in my car. Is my family keeping theirs up? I don't know, but at least I have a second way of communicating if my phone gets stolen.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And people need to understand that. And how can I say, we've seen the newspaper, the news now bringing up all these crimes that are going on there. We're not trying to scare anybody here. We're just talking about preparedness and being prepared if you want to be. If not, this is more for educational purposes anyway. But comparing ideas of what's going on and how people are feeling out there. And right now, on all sides of the spectrum, they're understanding that this is no longer the good idea of let's all sing Kumbaya and hold hands. This is turning into something different, and New York is a place where it happened, and everybody out there, you can start seeing it. Even the Democrats are coming out and saying, hey, this is wrong. This is something needs to be done about it. But again, we already have the problem. Go
ahead. I was working in the largest motorcycle shop in the country, the Iron Pony. And I was their security guy. And I tried to tell them in the next 2 years, 60% of Main Street businesses are not going to survive what's going to happen. Now, I was trying to wake them up because I have mitigations for that. And I had a program I could have given them, but they didn't want to listen. That is fear. Fear is sticking your head in the dirt because you can't see what reality is. Now, am I afraid? No, I kind of dance in storms, but it's because I know how to mitigate the storm. I know how to be the gray man in the middle of a riot. And yeah, I go toward riots. I go toward hurricanes. That's just what I do. But again, if you are afraid, there's people you can hire that are like me. And, I'm getting old and semi-retired, but there's younger guys that can outdo me any day now because I'm kind of slower than I used to be. And,
but I'm gonna be 56. I'm 55. I'm two nickels, and you took me for a couple of years, and there's other guys out there that I tell them, go learn from them, get them.
I'm 70 years old, and I just posted me in a T-shirt that says, "Don't let the old man in."
That's absolutely, and people do not understand those experiences that you have and we both have when we worked in those. I tell people when I was younger, I was more stupid than I was now, and that's why I did that. I wouldn't do that now. but it taught me a lot to be able to teach those that I care about what they need to do, and that takes me in that position. And I think people, if you all need to get something, you all have to invest in something that's light, invest in something that is practical, invest in something that is going to take care of you. If you start investing in the fads, quote unquote, even in the martial arts, all the way up to the firepower, invest in the fads, more likely it's not going to get you anywhere. Get the solid stuff that's been around for a while and use that. It's there for a purpose. It's time proven. It's lasted the storms. It's and they weren't fads. They're just something that was improved by time immemorial. And some of the fighting arts are. But if you go with the fads, and if you go yourself to the ground, and you get one mauled by two or three of these guys that are coming out there, that's the training that you invested in. So invest in good training, as well as invest in good protection elements of the tool.
May I speak to that for a moment?
Sure.
I, as you know, teach an old style of classical jiu-jitsu that was also evolved through World War II. And so it's combat jiu-jitsu. Let's explain something about combat jiu-jitsu. It's not sport. I would rarely, and not for very long if I had to, put two hands on one arm to make a kimura or a what we used to call a down udagarami or any type of arm bar or submission. First off, submissions take too long. You break things. Secondly, in street battle, you got to assume a knife or a gun. If I put two hands on your one hand, you're going to stab me. I got to assume it. Or you're going to shoot me. All right. So now I figure out where I put my gun so it can survive that grapple match. And I do one arm or body type blocks on one arm, and I shoot and I cut with my other arm. Now that's jiu-jitsu.
We repeat it again because I lost you. Go again. 5, 4.
Okay. Sport jiu-jitsu has a doctrine of battle, and it's about submissions and a sport. Real combat jiu-jitsu is about closing with and destroying or eliminating the threat. All right, so I'm never going to put two hands on one arm on an opponent because he might pull out a knife or a gun and stab me. That is combat jiu-jitsu. That is street jiu-jitsu. That is what I have to assume in my doctrine of battle. So that's why I carry a weapon that is percussive and a weapon that can stab. And when I can put with my body, blocking one arm when he takes me to the ground, I'm pulling out with my primary hand one of those weapons to stab or shoot the opponent and to stop his aggression. I always go back not to my hands, but to my primary weapons. That is a strategy within my doctrine of battle. And my techniques and my tactics don't look like judo, and they don't look like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or MMA, because that is sport. And there are Gracie guys that have died on the street because they made the wrong techniques.
You've seen where we come from, and we do have the ring art for the people that want to go in there. I haven't taught it. I fought in the ring myself, but it's the street that keeps you alive. And you have to understand that you have to have the ability. Some people always tell me, well, you have to understand how you punch for number one. And when you hit somebody, when your bones meet their flesh, they better be understanding that they're going to be getting cut and they're going to be broken. And it's going to end up in that fashion. And it's not going to look pretty. It's going to be very ugly, and it's going to be bloody. And when you have 2 or 3 people coming at you, the first one's going to get broken very, very quickly. The second one's going to get broken as well. You have to end the threat of them hurting you, the threat of them doing some bodily harm to you or your loved ones. So every time you strike somebody, it's meant to be that I'm going to inflict enough pain and with enough injury to cause that person not to get up. I don't want to kick him for him to go across the room. I want to kick him for him to go down right in front of me, for me to continue being able to shoe shine him if I need to. And people do not understand that. They forget the third party, the fourth party, the fifth party. And what we're talking about here in the essence of the attacks that we've been seeing is that there's not one-on-one or two-on-one like you see in most videos that are up there. They're 4, 5, 6-on-1. And if you're going to pretend that you're just focusing on one person and you're taught to do so, well, then you're going to go down. It's inevitable, just the way it is.
My first art in the black belt test was always a mass attack. 6 or 7 guys gang up on the person that's trying to pass his black belt. And that's what we have always assumed. Now, why do I wear that motorcycle jacket with a Kevlar in it? I've armored up. Okay, stabs are not going to hurt me as easy if it's 3, 4, 5-on-1. My left arm is my ward off, while my right arm, primary arm, is going to do the shooting. But guess what? I have a left-handed draw of a 7-inch Kasatsu from CRKT Tonto. Now, when I'm warding off, I'm cutting necks. Okay, so one guy is getting cut, the other guy is getting shot. All right, now how to train that? You get 3 or 4 targets close together. You're about 1 to 3 yards away from all of them, and you just start shooting and see how fast you can hit each target as you're waving your left hand with a knife. And you do not cover your left hand with the muzzle of your gun. You got to practice that first without live ammo. So you start to twirl and trail. Twirling is going in circles to get out of the grasp of multiple people, and trailing is getting them in line so you can deal with them one at a time. And all of that comes as a tactic, very important when you're dealing with mass attack. And you got to end each one of them. How do you end quickly? You take blood, you take structure, you take air. Those are the 3 things you're working for, not point systems, not a beautiful bruise on the jaw. No, you want to take blood, air, and structure in the first second and a half with each person you're dealing with.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. And the thing is that schools like yours, schools like where we're at right now, and others, in 2020, they just decimated many of them. So that type of training is harder and harder to come by. And for those out there that are looking for that, looking for some martial training, I'll tell you this: study the instructor, ask them who his instructor was, ask where they come from. There's a lot of quick rate $599 certificates in the mail. You get your black belt over a video. All that happens as well. Be careful. Remember, when you invest in a martial art, you're investing in yourself. And you are investing in yourself and the ability of you protecting your loved ones. And if you pick a child that's going to go train, if there's only boxing in your town, stick them in the boxing gym. They'll teach them some character. They'll teach them a lot better skills than many of the other martial arts that are around here at that time frame, date, and time. Why? Because they're gonna respect a punch. They're gonna know how to throw a punch, and they're gonna know how to move away from a punch. And that respect is very much needed. It's not being taught. And I'm not knocking down the people out there, our colleagues out there that have a school that they need to be open to survive. And they need to do that. I'm not making fun of you. You're making money. God bless you. Make a lot of money, please. But what I'm talking about is the actual structure of when it's times needed, when you all of a sudden you understand that you're seconds away from a chaotic event, and it's probably going to be a lasting event in your mind for many people. You better be able to take care of yourself, or else you're going to be a stat.
One last thing I might say is that changing your doctrine of battle to something like I've done is an adult act. It is not something for children. Children need honesty in the dojo. Point system fighting is not honest. The judge tells you, and you can find all kinds of strategies and tactics to get the point. But boxing is real. You know when you've been hit, you know when you lose, you know when you win. Children's judo is good wrestling technique without putting joint locks, which are too damaging to young people. So at 6 to about 12 years old, children's judo is a good art because you know when you're pinned, you know when you look, and you learn from your losses. Same thing with wrestling. Those are sports. But once you get into late teenage or you're going to train for the military or something like that, it's time to do adult strategies.
Absolutely. Listen, brother, thank you for your words, and for those people out there, if you like this, share it. If you have a comment about it. If you have any questions, please write it down, and also state where you're watching this from. Remember, we're just here to inform the lesser informed. We're not here to scare anybody. This is more for educational purposes of things that are about to happen, that are happening. It's not about to happen. They're happening now. So you all stay safe, brother. We'll touch
Professor
base.
Paul, I hope that you always stand strong, stand humble, stand virtuous, stand honorable, and stand dangerous.
Always. Yeah, the people behind me and those that taught me, the respect's always towards them. And that's the way it passes on.
All right, brother.
All right, brother. You be safe. Folks, you all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you. Next time.
You too. Bye-bye.